Now we have learned angle relationships. We have learned about complementary angles, supplementary angles, adjacent angles, vertical angles, corresponding angles. Now this is the time to use the angle properties to answer some questions that you can possibly see in standardized tests. So, number one, the measure of an angle is 75 degrees. What is the measure of its complementary angle? So the main word right here that directs you to the answer is complementary. So the word complementary means that you are looking for the angle that will add to 75 degrees to give you 90 degrees. That word complementary describes two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so in this case, that is 15 degrees. So number two, every time you see a triangle and there is a square on one of the angles, that square is a way of naming that angle. Okay, that square means 90 degrees. It is called a right angle or a square angle. Okay, it is also called a square angle because it is the angle that is formed inside a square. That is why we always use the square to represent that angle. Now that said, if this square angle here, all of this square angle is 90 degrees, and we know this part of the square angle is 30 degrees, what will be this complement right here? So we are looking for that number that will add to 30 degrees to give the full angle, which is 90 degrees, and that is 60 degrees in this case. Okay. All right, next we have a scenario here where we have a straight line. The measure of all the angles on a straight line is 180 degrees. That is the definition of supplementary angles. So it says a straight line measures 180 degrees. So some information is given here. The straight line measures 180 degrees. A straight line and a triangle are touching as shown in the figure. So bottom line here is that all of these angles measure 180 degrees. But we know the measure of this other part right here. We know the measure of this part right here. But we do not know the measure of this part here right here that is labeled as x degrees. So we want to find what that x degree represents. So basically we're looking for which of these numbers will add to these two to make 180 degrees. So first let's add these two. When we add 80 plus 16, we get 96. Okay, so we can now start to try each of these numbers to see which one of them adds to 96 to get 180. That will be 84. 84 plus 96 is 180. Okay, so that is 0, 17 plus 1, 18, 180. Also, you could do the reverse operation of adding by subtracting 96 from 180, and that will give you 84. Okay, so next, number 4, these two angles are complementary. They add up to 90 degrees. So without any waste of time, the complement is 64. All right, use the figure below to answer the question. All right, so here we have on a straight line, all the angles on the straight line add up to 180 degrees. So here we are going to add 42 plus 9, and then this square angle right here is 90 degrees. So we have 90 degrees. So we will have 90 degrees plus 9 degrees plus 42. Okay, that gives us 141 degrees. Now to get what this missing angle is, we subtract 141 from this 180. So x will be 180 minus 141, and that is 39 degrees. This is going to be very quick. We have learned about vertical angles being congruent. In this scenario, this angle measures 50 degrees. This x degrees is vertical, so x equals 50 degrees as well. Okay, that is the property of vertical angles. They are congruent. Now, these are adjacent angles that are supplementary. So this is 180 degrees on this straight line. So I know this part is 60 degrees, so this part x here will be 180 minus 60, of course, which is 120 degrees. Okay. Next, we have a triangle here. One of its angles here is x degrees. This one is 90 degrees. This one is not labeled, but it is vertical to this 47 degrees, so it is also 47 degrees by the property of vertical angles. So if this is 47, if this is already 90, then this 47 plus whichever angle is here will also be 90, because all the three angles should add up to 180 degrees. So x will be 90 degrees minus 47, and so that will be 43 degrees. Number 9, again, all the angles on a straight line 180 degrees. Now, I'm looking for which angle should sit here so that all of these add up to 180 degrees. But this is already 125 degrees from 80 and 45. So to get this missing angle, we will do 180 minus 125, and that gives us 55 degrees angle measure. Now here x is 57 degrees, vertical angles, we've already seen that. Over here, x is vertical to this angle, but if we know this angle, then we can know x. But what is this angle? Inside this triangle, these three have to add up to 180 degrees. These two, 130, so this is 50, and so x is 50 degrees over here. Which angle is the complement to angle KQM? So the first thing is to look for the angle KQM. This is how to look for it. You start on K, go to Q, and then go to M. So this is the angle KQM, 35 degrees. All right, now, the angle that is complement to 35 degrees is the angle that will add up to 35 degrees to give 90 degrees. And in this case, it is this 55 degrees right here. So, but then this 55 degrees represents the angle PQS. So we're looking for PQS, and there we go, angle PQS. In the diagram below, lines R, S, and Q intersect at one point. Okay, we can see the lines intersecting right here. Okay, question. What is the sum of the measure of angle 3 and angle 4? All right, there are multiple ways to go over this. The angle 2 here is the intersection of R and S, so angle 2 is vertical to this 80 degrees, so angle 2 is also 80 degrees. Okay. Angle 3 is vertical to this 30 degrees, so angle 3 is also 30 degrees. All right. Now, looking at this whole hemisphere, the bottom hemisphere, 30 degrees, 30 degrees and 80 degrees plus angle 4 should be 180. But then 30 degrees and 80 degrees is already 110. So angle 4 should be 70 degrees, because 110 plus 70 is 180. So now that gives us the measure of all the angles now because angles 4 and 1 are vertical, so 1 is 70 degrees. We know all the angles now. We can find the sum of the measures of angles 3 and 4, and that will be 30 plus 70, which is 100 degrees. Okay, over here, this angle here is 60 degrees. How do I know? It is vertical to this 60 degrees over here. Now, below here, all of this should be 180. Now, these two make 80, so this should be 100 degrees. And now, this 100 degrees is vertical to this x degrees, so that x should be 100 degrees as well. Okay. We have a straight line, a bar. A marble hits a wall. So a marble hits a wall at 22 degrees, bounces off at 22 degrees, and what is the measure of the angle between the two parts? Okay, we want to measure this angle here, right here. So all of this should be 180 degrees. So this 22 and this 22 we already know. So this angle that we don't know should be 180 minus 2 of the 22 degree angles. So that will be 180 minus 44. Okay, and that will give us 136 degrees. And last but not the least, so we're looking for the measure of this angle M. We start with this lower hemisphere. This is 120, this will be 60, so that all of them are 180. All right, now M is vertical to this 60 degrees, and so M will be 60 degrees.